Okay, hi. In this video, I'm going to deal with one of the most common objections that evolutionists and atheists have against intelligent design. This objection is this simple question, and they ask, well, if God created life, then who created God? Was it a super God? Well, then who created the super God? Well, I know a super duper God, and things like that. So basically, the point that atheists and evolutionists have is that we cannot conclude that life was designed if we cannot explain the origin of the designer as well. So we cannot say that life was designed by an intelligent designer if we cannot explain who designed this intelligent designer, or if we cannot explain where the intelligent designer came from. But you know what? This is not a valid objection against intelligent design. It's not valid. It simply is not valid because this objection doesn't apply to other sciences. For example, in archaeology, archaeologists can conclude that a pyramid or a tool or something was designed even if they don't know who the designer was. For example, archaeologists don't know who designed Stonehenge, but they know that it was designed. Archaeologists are sure that Stonehenge was designed even though they don't know where the designer came from. They don't know who the designer is, they don't know who created the designer, but they can still conclude that Stonehenge was designed. So why not applying the same logic to life? It is perfectly consistent and perfectly okay to say that life was designed even if we don't know who the designer is, or where the designer came from, or who created the designer. So it is, the fact that we don't know who created the designer is not a valid objection against the design, the design argument. You cannot use that objection against intelligent design because it's not valid. If you want to use this objection to refute intelligent design, if you want to ask, if your position is, I won't accept intelligent design because if I accept intelligent design as a model for the origin of life, I will have to explain the origin of the designer as well. That's not a valid position. And if you're going to have that position, then you have to apply that position everywhere else. That includes, for example, archaeology. So if you're going to have that position, then in order to be intellectually consistent, you will have to say that Stonehenge was not designed because no one has ever seen the designer, and because no one has ever been able to explain where the designer of the Stonehenge came from, or who the designer is, or who created the designer, or whatever. So that's not a valid objection. You can say that intelligent design is not a valid model, but you cannot use this question. The question of if God created life, then who created God, as a valid argument against intelligent design. So it's as simple as that. For example, if we ever find a city in Mars or in any other planet, or if we find like a tool or a building or whatever, scientists are going to conclude intelligent design. They probably won't know who were the designers. Some are gonna say that the designers were aliens. Others are going to say that the designers were, angels or time travelers or whatever. But everybody is going to conclude that this hypothetical city in Mars or in any other planet was designed, even if we don't know who the designer is. So this is my point. You can conclude that life was designed even if you don't know who created the designer. So that simply is not a valid objection. And as I said, if you want to apply this objection to refute intelligent design, then you have to use the same logic everywhere else. So that's about it. I just wanted to make clear that asking if God created life, then who created God is simply not a valid question. And if you are going to ask that question, you have to ask that question everywhere. Um, so, I mean, the whole point is you have to be intellectually consistent. I mean, if you're going to use one line of reasoning to refute intelligent design, it's okay. But you have to be consistent and use that same line everywhere else. So, for example, I mean, this is an unrelated example, but if your position is that you don't believe that Jesus walked on water because that is scientifically impossible according to modern scientific laws, then you have to apply that logic in everywhere else, and that includes, for example, when it comes with the origin, when it comes to the origin of life. Um, I mean, according to scientific laws, life cannot come from non-life. Life can only come from pre-existing life, and this is the law of biogenesis. So, according to current scientific laws, life cannot exist without pre-existing life. So, I mean, if you are gonna say that you are not going to believe that Jesus walked on water because it is scientifically impossible, then you have to apply the same logic with the origin of life, for example. And sure, you can say, well, we are still looking, even though we don't know how did life originated today, we are still looking, and we are still looking for a natural mechanism that can create life without pre-existing life. But then you have to apply the same logic with Jesus walking on water. I mean, you will have to say, well, I don't know how Jesus did it, but we are still looking for a natural mechanism that allows people to walk on water. So, I mean, the whole point is that you have to be consistent. I mean, if you're gonna reject something, if you have an argument that makes you reject an idea, such as intelligent design, well, you have to keep the same logic and apply that logic everywhere. So it's about it. This video was meant to be a shorter video, but anyway, have a nice day, and let me know if you have any opinions, and leave a comment or a video reply or whatever.